Lord, we greet thee. On this happy morning, Jesus, to thee be all glory. Word of the Father, now in flesh appearing. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Verse 7 of what we just heard reads like this: How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim peace, who bring good tidings, who proclaim salvation, who say to Zion, your God reigns. We need a lot of peace in this world and in our lives, and I don't have to tell you that. Particularly the season of the holidays that we are in, supposed to be celebrating the birth of the Prince of Peace, as we just read. This is one of the most hectic and stressful times of the year, believe it or not, to many people. People don't have any peace when they celebrate the peace of the King of Peace. With partying and shopping and cooking, cleaning, entertaining guests, and celebrating all those things that we want to have a perfect Christmas. And sometimes we look back and say, hey, we did that last year and we could not get it done this year, and feel bad about it. And then we want to make everything so perfect and tied up together and make us so stressful. And there are some unhealthy guests also that comes along with this, like stress and depression. I don't know if you know that the days after the holidays are the worst depression days for people. First week of January, particularly January 6th. For some they have done some studies with all the credit card bills piling up and all the things that you have to return and going back and forth, and with all these things, people look at their bank accounts and bills, and then they start some kind of a depression every year. This goes back and forth. I was reading some articles about how to handle this. As we advance as a society and people with a lot of technology and help with different things, we are still not managing our stress and our depressions properly still. The Mayo Clinic has a whole website, how to handle stress and depression during the holidays. Take a look at it and read it. It's really very good, and it is some very helpful hints. One of the things that touched me was that you don't have to follow the same tradition every year. Sometimes you cannot do that. For example, if your adult children are grown and they moved out and they can't come home, leave it aside. That is life, right? And find new ways to celebrate together. Find another time. It doesn't have to be Christmas days all the time. So take a look at that. Just search in Google about that tips from Mayo Clinic. It's really very good. So remember, we don't have to be perfect to celebrate Christmas. We don't have to be following every single line of the tradition that we have always followed to celebrate Christmas. That's not the case of celebrating Christmas, because the birth of Jesus itself, when we remember that, it was one of those hectic and stressful, and anything that can go wrong had gone wrong during that time. I mean, look at the poor Mary, Joseph and Mary. Their life was turned upside down. They actually didn't expect any of these things in their lives, but I mean, I can imagine the stress and the difficulties that they went through. And then all these people who have appeared in the scene during Christmas that we celebrate, the shepherds in the field, the innkeeper, the angel of the Lord, and all of those angels and heavenly hosts singing, all of these things have come together in one moment of time and changed a lot of people's lives during that first Christmas. But even with all of that thing, their common experience and the joy that they shared allowed them to have a momentary experience of peace at that time, even in the midst of all that chaos. It helped them to see beyond the present and to catch a glimpse of the future that God has promised them and us. So let us remember during this chaotic time and this stressful time that we are all struggling to get things together, that there's a glimpse of future that God wants you and me to see, a hope of peace that He has offered, and that is the birth of the Prince of Peace. That is the greatest gift that we need to see and understand and experience in our lives. The diverse scenes of the first Christmas, with all of those things that happening in the midst of all of that stuff, Mary and Joseph and all of those who were involved found that peace in the midst of that. Like I said, we live in a turbulent time. No matter where you are in your political side, it doesn't seem to have an end of all of this turmoil that we are seeing. Divisions are growing daily. Hatred and violence and divisions in society, in families. And we see all of these things happening more and more. But message that we read today from Isaiah's prophecy, chapter 52. The country was going through a very difficult time. And as a nation, they were surrounded by their enemies. And they were overtaken. And they thought there was no hope in sight. And they were very depressed. And that's when the prophet is prophesying to these people and telling them that, awake, put on thy strength, and put on your beautiful garments. That is what he's telling the people in the midst of that depression. Put on your beautiful garments. And then he says that, for henceforth there shall be no more the uncircumcised and the unclean attacking you. Shake yourself from the dust. Clothe yourself with strength and put on the garments of splendor. It's not only in our lives, not only in our society, but also in our church we are going through a difficult time. Recognizing the diverse opinions and things happening in our church is becoming very difficult for many people. The reality is that we all may be gathering during these holidays with unresolved feelings and very different opinions. But God's message today, when we celebrate this, is to shake off your dust and move on. When we have dust gathering on us, it can cause a lot of problems. It can weigh you down. Our community is not just divided Republicans and Democrats or liberals or conservatives. It's not just like, we are all brothers and sisters created for a particular cause. There is nobody here in this world who was born without a particular cause that God has planned for. So we are all one together, creation of God, children of God. Set all of those dust aside, keep them out, and move on with our lives to see the Prince of Peace so that we can experience the peace in our lives and then spread that peace to this world. And that is what we need to remember during these chaotic days of this season. Shake off your dust. There are instances where the shake-ups can make us covered with dust. I read a story, I don't know if you know about shake it off and step up. A farmer owned an old donkey. And one day there was a big ditch in his backyard, and this donkey fell into that big hole. And the farmer called his friends and neighbors and tried to pull him out. There's no way they can do it, and they tried their best, and they decided to put him out, dump more dirt on it and put him out of the misery and hole and bury him. So when started to dump dust into the hole, the old mule, the donkey, was very hysterical and very stressful and started yelling and screaming as the dust started falling on him. And they started shoveling more and more dust into it. And after about 2 minutes, the donkey woke up like some kind of an awakening and decided to stay quiet. And he didn't start crying anymore, and he didn't start stressing out anymore. Every time that they put some dirt on him, he would shake it up. And they started piling more and more dirt on this donkey to fill up the hole and bury him. And every time he gets that dirt, he will shake it up and step on it. And they will put more dirt, he will shake it up and step on. He will shake it up and step on. You know where I'm going with that. Eventually, he was able to get off and walk away even though he was exhausted and weak. The dirt was filling the hole and he was able to walk away from it. No matter how painful and how difficult our dust, our blows may be, or distress our situations seem, do not panic. Do not panic. Because even in the midst of the chaos, that is where the Prince of Peace is born, to give us peace so that we can experience and shake off the dust, and not to be buried by the burdens, but to be freed from the burdens. We can experience the joy and peace of Christmas during this time. The messenger is bringing the good news that the powerful peace will help you to shake off our dust and move up and move on. One of the frenzy and craziness of the world situation, the political process, and the holiday season, we have a sign of peace that we are celebrating. It is a promise that there is hope for peace. The good news I want you to hear today is that on this day, in the city of David, a Savior was born. He is the Messiah, the Lord. He is the Prince of Peace. That is our focus. That is our celebration. And then this prophet actually encourages them to understand that the Lord reigns. And we read that at the end of the reading that we read, that remember the Lord is still in control. And He is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. In Psalm 98 we read, the Lord is King. Let the earth rejoice. Let the many coastlands be glad. He is a powerful God who can take control of situations when He decides to. So no matter how you feel out of control your situation may be, God is still in control. During an earthquake a few years ago, I read a story that in one of the South American villages, they were all shaken up by this earthquake, and they were all worried about and afraid about what's going to be happening. And there was one little lady, a church lady, who was a believer and always praying, and she was clapping her hands and rejoicing in the midst of that shaking. And they thought she was going crazy. But when they asked her, she said, they asked her, "Are you not afraid?" She said, "No. I'm glad that I know that I have a God who is mighty, who can shake the world. And He can also stop it from shaking." If the God can shake the world, if our God can shake the world, He can also stop it from shaking. And that's our hope. That's our trust and our faith. He is an almighty and powerful God who is more powerful than any earthquakes in this world or any shakings that you can experience in your lives. He is a mightier God than any forces out there. That knowledge and faith will bring peace in the middle of it all. Isaiah 66, we read again the prophet is saying that God will extend peace like a river and the wealth of nations like a flooding stream. Yes, the river of peace flows gently in the midst of turmoil. Life is unpredictable, and you know that, we all know that. Things take a turn when we least expect it. We make plans and projections and proposals and make a lot of plans and for our future, but often they are little more than just guesses. We have no idea what a year or a month or a week will bring. But there is a God who knows the past, who is in the present with us, and He is also knowledgeable about the future. And then that is what we are given to understand, to be still and to know that He is still God. Then also one more promise in the verse that I wanted to have to take you to take with today. In verse 12 we read, "The Lord will go before you. The God of Israel will be your rear guard. He will be in front of you and He will be behind you." So you just follow him because you are protected from front and the back. He goes ahead of us in all the situations that he has been there before us. So remember that. When Mary Magdalene and Mary, mother of Jesus, and Salome went to the tomb to embalm his body after his death and burial. We read that in Mark 16. You all know that story. A young man was sitting in the tomb in white garments, and he said, "What are you looking for?" He said, "We are looking for the body of Jesus." And the tomb is opened, and they were startled. They were shocked. And he said, "Don't be alarmed." He said, "You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you." Dear friends, he is a God who goes ahead of you. No matter what situation you are going to be facing tomorrow, he is already there. So you will meet him there when you get there. And remember that his presence will give the comfort that you need. A lot of us are going through difficult times. We all know that. In sicknesses, in grief, in a lot of pain. As a church, we are going through a time of difficulty. But remember, there is a God who is in control. He can shake the world and he can stop the world from shaking. Let us hold on to that. And he is a God who will never let us go alone. He is already there before us. The Christmas message to the world is that he is already there ahead of us. A journey to the grave should not point us to a depressed world, but a joy of heavenly presence with God. In John 14, Jesus said, he came to this world to give us peace, a peace that passeth all understanding, not like the world gives. This peace that he gave you is not to be taken away from you by any force or anything in this world. He gives us is not like what the world tries to give you. Although it may surpass our problems for the moment, the world's peace will not last long. Whatever personal situations that we are going through, God is bigger than our problems. He is readily available to help if we take refuge in him and trust in his promises. David says that in Psalm 16, "The Lord is at my right hand and I will not be shaken." And 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 may fall at your right hand. It will not come near you. The Lord will cover you under his wings. You probably all know the very well-known hymn, "It is well with my soul, peace like a river." It's a familiar song. Horatio Spafford, who wrote this song, was a great businessman in the Chicago area. He lost his son of 4 years old in 1870s. And then right after that, he lost his house in a fire. And most of his savings was burned down during that fire. And when he started to get back his life turned around in 1873, he and his family decided to go to England for a revival meeting, to attend a revival meeting with his family. So they got tickets, and he and his wife and his 3 daughters booked the ticket. And for some reason, for business reasons, he had to stay back and cancel the trip. But the mother and the 3 daughters started their journey to England. On the way, the ship they were traveling collided with another ship and sank in 12 minutes. All 3 of the daughters died in that shipwreck. Miraculously, the wife, the mother was saved. And when she reached the other land to England, she sent a telegram to Mr. Spafford in Chicago. So he started his journey the next day after receiving this news. And when his ship was passing through the same spot where his 3 children, his 3 daughters were drowned, he had a big depression came to him. And he could not control himself, and so he shut himself in his cabin and started praying. That is when he wrote that hymn, "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trials should come, let this blessed assurance control that Christ has regarded my helpless estate and shed his own blood for me. And when he concludes that with a hope of prayer, Lord, haste the day when my fate shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. Dear friends, no matter where we are and what we go through, it is still going to be well with our souls because God is already be there with us. May God bless you with these words and comfort with your presence. Amen.
Amen.